What's up, everyone? This is Niyi Adewale, host of the Ekabo Home Financial Freedom Mastermind Group. This group meets virtually every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, and the members of this group are committed to achieving financial freedom well before the traditional retirement age. So in this podcast, you are going to get VIP access to the conversations we have about different forms of investment and creative ways to get your dollars working harder for you than you originally worked to obtain those dollars. Alpha, welcome to the call. And anytime we have somebody new on, we usually ask them a little bit about their background and kind of some of their investing goals. Alpha, do you mind sharing?
So yeah, my name is Alpha Diallo. I live out here in Atlanta, like I believe most of you guys are. Some things about me, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I am a civil engineer. I graduated about 3 years ago. I currently work for Georgia Power, kind of working on some power line design. And I've had 3 Airbnbs, 2 here in Atlanta and 1 in Tulum for a little while. And currently I'm trying to buy my first property and house hack either to Airbnb, long-term rentals, or possibly renting out the room. And I've been getting some help out in that. So that's kind of a little bit about myself. And yeah.
Thank you, Alpha. And we talked about it a little bit earlier this week, but I'm very interested in it. I'm hoping that Shamika and Ahize are too, but I want to dive into this Tulum piece, right? We're building up a bunch of Airbnbs around Atlanta, but the ultimate goal is to be able to have those be self-sufficient over time and travel the world and potentially have Airbnbs in other countries where you could go there to visit, stay for free, and also have it pay for itself and give you some income. How did you get into the Tulum Airbnb? And then can you just talk through some of your experience with that?
Okay, so yeah, I did get into Tulum Airbnb around November, and I had it until about March. So I think I jumped in a little too early. Like I said, I only had 2 Airbnbs, and I probably had a little bit of experience. But I had met some guy on Instagram that I knew because he was my friend's cousin, and he kind of was already living out there, and he kind of started visiting properties for long-term rentals. So I hit him up. I said, "Hey, why don't you kind of look for one for Airbnbs?" And it seems like in Mexico, they're very open to it. As long as you pay your rent, they really don't care. So he kind of went out to a couple of real estate agents. And I think the person who I work, he probably wasn't the best business partner because he really wasn't organized. He really didn't know what was going on. And kind of he connected me with somebody out there who was willing to do Airbnb. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I can actually maybe pull it up and show you guys how it was set up. And it was actually a pretty nice Airbnb. But just some of the problems that I ran into was essentially he wasn't there all the time to support me. So he had gave me one of his friends who's this Mexican dude who did tours. And essentially he was my makeshift project manager. And I think I entered during slow season. So the month of November, I basically got it. In the first 3 weeks, I did not get booked. And I think some of it was just because trying to set up Airbnb while you're inside the United States and not going to Mexico is not a good idea.
Yeah. You gotta have the boots on the ground, right?
Yeah, boots on the ground at least to try to get it set up. But he kind of told me, "Hey, I will do a turnover B&B," and he didn't fully turn it over. So there's a lot of things I had to set up with the guy when he had free time to try to set it up. And I started to get a lot of bookings around the end of December, January, and February. But mind you, at this point, I had not making any money during November. And in December, essentially, I got a couple bookings here and there, but I didn't make the rent in December also. So by that point, I had got frustrated and I had lowered my prices. So I basically lowered my prices and I got booked from December 25th, basically to the end of February. And I said, oh, crap. My prices were probably too low for me to get booked completely all the way till then. So basically, it got booked. I remember my first 3 reviews, I got straight 5 stars. People loved it. It was going pretty well. Then I got one booking where basically my property manager went missing. He said his phone broke, his car broke down, and my guest needed something, and I don't know anybody in Mexico. So that was a big problem. So basically, I set it up and it worked out good, but there was some mistakes that I made by not having the right systems in place and kind of having those backup systems to make it run smoothly. And I think a lot of that problem was me not going over there. I think I probably had way more success than I should have for the amount of planning that I did beforehand. But I think that some of it too is I also entered during slow season where it was slower in November and December, and then it picked back up. Obviously, you have to get some reviews on Airbnb. And I think some of the things that helped me out, I think in December, I actually had my sister and my friend's sister fake book the Airbnb just to kind of have something on there. But essentially what kind of made me have to shut it down was I didn't have a reliable property manager. And I couldn't find one that was cost effective to make it work. And the thing about in Mexico, he actually had signed the lease, and then I had spoke to the owner, and I was like, "Yeah, this is not really working out. So let's just kind of close it down." So in total, actually, even though I made money in those in January, February, and half of March, that basically covered those rents, but I ended up losing money overall and just trying to set it up because I did have to pay 2 months of rent. I think it was first month's rent and security. And then I had to pay, for a Ring camera, had to pay to set up Wi-Fi and kind of some of those other things. But a lot of the apartments in Tulum do come fully furnished.
Really? Like you bought
Yes.
that when you rented that apartment, it had all the furniture in
It
it?
had all the furniture. Essentially, all I had to buy, even though was bed sheets and towels and things of that nature. So I think kind of going out, and there's actually I actually found two girls towards the end who managed properties, but at that point it was just like it felt like, what do you call that? A sinking fund where I'm basically just throwing money at a problem, hoping that it eventually turns around. And I kind of just said, hey, let me just scale on back and recalibrate and try to do it again later. And that's when I said, hey, I'm gonna scale on back, save my money, try to buy a property and do it again here in Atlanta. But no, it was definitely a good experience. And it kind of showed me that if I could run a Airbnb in a whole nother country, never visited, and have some sort of success, that means you could do long-term Airbnbs. It's highly possible if you set up your systems in place and you do the research on the place to make sure that it's obviously a profitable place. But yeah, it was a good experience. It was definitely some stressful times. I think there was one time one of my toilets wasn't working, and I'm calling this guy. He finally goes up there. He shows up. Then he has to call someone else to show up, and it was some headaches to it. It
And,
was some
and,
headaches, but I do think it was a great experience to learn that.
and to that point, like
Mhm.
just to have the courage to even go out there and jump in another country, right? Especially if you haven't visited. Like I visited Tulum for the first time last December
You
for
didn't
Christmas
visit
with the
it.
fam.
I
Hmm?
had spent 4 days on there on my birthday, so I actually wanted to buy property in Tulum. So that's why when he started posting properties in Tulum, I hit him up and jumped on it right away.
Mm.
but but yeah, so I
No.
had visited and I said, this is a nice area. I could see people staying here for a couple of months. And like, I was like, maybe I'll come out to Tulum and work from home out here because it was pretty cool and the prices was good. There was good people. And the thing about Tulum, it's kind of an international city where you'll be walking the street and be somebody from France and Europe. Like, yeah, I'm just here for 3-4 months, just kind of hanging out. And yeah, that was pretty neat. And there's a lot of tourists coming out there. And it's like Cancun, like it's like Cancun, but essentially it's less touristy. So it hasn't been fully Americanized. It still has some of that. Obviously, it's Americanized because there's a lot of tourists out there, but it still has that native
Jungle vibe.
American
It has that
culture.
jungle vibe. That
Yeah,
being said, 2023, I think they're getting an airport, and that's going to change things significantly. And Jamie, I see you shaking your head. You heard about this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because we go down there at least once a year. We just got back. We were there for a couple weeks, and the idea that the airport is getting built down in Tulum is it's just gonna take so much pressure off of Cancun. It'll help you, kind of stay in that southern region of Peru, which is awesome. And it'll take out that whole hour and a half, 2 hour drive going through Playa every single time you go down there. So it's gonna be a great thing. I'm my whole background is all airports. So I spent 25 years in commercial aviation and got a call in the last couple of weeks from a consulting firm asking if I'd come back on for a little while. So I just started that today too.
Hey, congrats. I don't know how you're keeping it together with everything else, but congrats, man. No, and Jamie, kind of following up on some stuff that we talked about before, how is your Airbnb coming together? I know you're looking at doing like a luxury B&B out in Arizona. Have you started pulling that together yet?
Struggling. And I'll tell you why. Really, it's getting out of the existing hard money. Because I mean, this was supposed to be a flip. And the hard money that I initially got on the flip was super expensive, but it's one of those things you buy a $500,000 house with no money down, but you're paying crazy interest, right? Or you put 20% down, 15% down, and you pay 8% less. So, when the market was great, we were using the no money down, we'll pay high interest, we pay 2 months up front, and we're flipping houses and flipping stuff in 60 to 90 days. Now that the market's gone a completely different direction out here and you can't sell a thing to save your life, now we're looking. I'm meeting with a buddy of mine tomorrow who's just finished up a 270 unit multifamily property, and seeing if he wants to partner with me. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's a nice chunk of change. It's 35,000, really gets it back to where I need to go. Catches up on everything. The new hard money is 25 grand, and then a 25 grand down payment, and then we'll get it going. So if everything goes well tomorrow, I may have that thing moving in the next couple of weeks.
Come on now. And this is the part a lot of people don't see. Like, we talk about real estate investing, everybody's like, hey, it's all, roses and sunshine. But really what it is problem solving. You're trying to figure out how to solve a problem. And the problem right now is that the interest rates went up so quickly that everybody's paused, at least for this time period, which we've talked about. And if you did need to get out of a property right now, we're seeing the same with this flip up in Buckhead that you actually got to see. That was at a higher price point and originally listed it at the pie in the sky number, which is not good. So we've since readjusted, and there's a lot more interest, but it's one of those times where this is not a time to have to sell something. We'll put it like that.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great time to buy. Amazing time to buy. Hey, this is the time where you can go out there and negotiate. People are like, hey, I'll give you seller credits, all of that stuff. Kevin, I see you joined for the first time. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm just getting off work right now. I'm just listening to you guys. I'm good. Thank you. Just going to my girlfriend's game right now. I wanted to tune in a little bit this week. This week has been crazy for me, so I'm just listening to you guys, soaking up some knowledge.
Come on now. And Kevin, one thing that we do for anybody the first time they join, and I'll put you on the spot a little bit, is we ask just a little bit about your background and some of your investing goals moving forward.
Okay, so I graduated from Lee University, played professional basketball for 4 years in Germany, Greece, Austria, and Macedonia. My fiance now plays professional basketball for the Atlanta Dream, and my real estate goals right now is obviously do a couple fix and flips. I'm a new real estate investor. I also want to have a couple rental properties under my belt. Just a couple before I hit 35. That's my goal.
Love it, man. Love it. And the cool thing about this call is we have individuals from all over that invest in Atlanta as well as other regions that have similar goals. Want to have more rental properties, more passive cash flow that's going to allow us to kind of live the life that you want, right? And live the dream of being able to choose what you want to do with your time. And one of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier was just the changing of the tides right now, right? And the ability to be able to negotiate and go after deals and things of that nature. I told you a little bit about the one that I was able to secure. Alpha, we have one under contract as well that you actually just did your inspection today for the first time. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Shamika, I don't know if we talked about this, but are you actively trying to get out and get a property as well? Or is this more of a pause period for you?
No, currently right now, no, I'm not actively seeking. So I'm just learning. I'm seeing what's out there. Like today, where you had me out in the field today, it was great to see, just looking in the area. And then I was in being more hands-on. So now that I am part of the team, I can be, see what's out there in real estate all together. And then I kind of see the process, like today where it's been renovated, but not decorated yet. Now we're getting the internet installed. And so right now I'm not actively seeking, but hopefully in the near future.
Nice. And that's huge. And what Shamika mentioned is true. And a complete side note, and you guys are kind of hearing this first, I haven't even told my company yet, but it's been growing fast, right? The management business, we're going to have at the end of this month, 15 units under management for short-term rentals. And then also the agent business and things of that nature. And I've been trying to do all this alongside a W-2 for a while. And it's come to a point where there's a decision that needs to be made. And so long story short, next week, I plan to talk to my manager and the company and let them know I'm going to be moving into this full time. So I'm excited about that. A little bit nervous. Jamie, you're doing semi the opposite right now.
Not the opposite.
But I'm excited about it, man.
But doing the semi the opposite is actually kind of doing the same, and I'll explain why I think that is because you did this until you were at a point of where that income and is starting to equal itself out, right? Where you're W-2 and everything's getting to that point where you can maybe take that step and go that direction. When I got into real estate investing, it was more or less because the pandemic hit and I was like, well, let's go flip a house and see what happens. And there was no W-2. It was having a company that wasn't working out because of the pandemic, and so we just did it. Now that we're at this point, the the thought process has changed and the mindset has changed into, all right, let's go back into the W-2 workforce. Now I can be bankable again. Now I can start building a portfolio as a kind of opposite. Instead of working backwards, I'm probably working in the right direction now.
I love that. And I love the fact that what you just mentioned, right? The thing that you're able to do if you move into that entrepreneurial space is if you've built up a strong resume, which you have, you can always come back. And it does make you bankable to now, even if you just have an offer letter from them, I'm pretty sure you can go and get something refinanced. Like they're gonna be like, hey man, X amount, we got you. As opposed to it's kind of hard when you don't get that W-2.
Yep, absolutely.
That's awesome, man. I want to open it up. Any topics or anything that's top of mind or questions? This is a group where you're going to have a lot of people with a wealth of different experience. So anything top of mind from anybody?
I kind of wanted to, I think we kind of already kind of touched it a little bit, just kind of what everyone is kind of seeing in their markets and kind of it's slowing down. Because I've been listening to a lot of like On the Market, which is like a podcast on YouTube, and they've been kind of saying it. But it's just good to hear from people that I can actually speak to and kind of tell me what they're seeing in their markets when it comes to things not selling or prices dropping, or maybe things not selling because people are just not budging on their price, and maybe people are dropping the price and people are still not buying. So I just kind of wanted to ask. I see some of us are not all from Atlanta, and I'm sitting in Atlanta and kind of just where the overall market is going.
Jamie, you want to take this one first?
Well, Carson and Artie, obviously, I've been on the phone with them pretty much every day now, just discussing what they're hearing too. And I'm not sure about Georgia because at this point, Carson said in Georgia, hedge funds are still purchasing. But in Phoenix alone, they completely quit. They're doing a 60-day pause and they'll reevaluate going into October. A lot of people think rates may drop in October, from a political standpoint of, putting that back on the agenda to help out. Not making this a political comment, but the Democrats may believe that will be their way of winning the midterms. A lot of people are thinking that direction. There was another thing I was going to say. Other than that, really the hedge funds, I'm kind of following what they're doing. If they're going to hang out and not do much for a while, then we're just kind of follow that. That being said, Carson and Artie are having a field day right now in Georgia. They're crushing it right now.
yeah. I get the random text out of nowhere, like, all right, can you go? I'm like, okay, let's do it.
So Carson works for a hedge fund?
No, Carson and Artie they're wholesalers, and they were selling quite a bit to hedge funds. In Phoenix, 6 months ago, if you had a house that had a tile roof and stucco siding made after 2000 with no pool, and you were looking for 400, a hedge fund was buying it for 450. And they were and it was nonstop. I mean, there was companies out here that started, their whole goal was, let me get a house and I'll sell to a hedge fund. They weren't selling to flippers, hedge funds only. And some of those guys are struggling now because that was their whole business model.
And commenting and piggybacking off of that, for Georgia and the Atlanta market, the interest rates rising has started to impact some of the buyers. People are taking a pause. It's pulling. If you were on the edge of being able to afford a house, say you were like approved for, I don't know, 300 or 250, that last interest rate hike probably took you out of the market. And so that's happening on the lower end. And then on the higher end, you can't list your house for the pie in the sky number. If this was last year, to Jamie's point, and a house down the street sold for 710, you could list yours for 730 and it's going to sell. Now with the interest rates going up, people are kind of like clutching their pearls. And if the house down the street sold for 710, you need to list it for right around 710 to get that thing sold. And it's no longer selling, in that first week. Now it's going to sit for closer to what was normal before the pandemic, which was, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then you're under contract.
Are you saying that's currently in the Atlanta market now with the fix and flips?
Yeah, in the Atlanta market, you have to list those fix and flips with the comps, right? A couple years ago, or even a couple months ago, you could say, hey, the last comp sold for 400. let's list this one for 425 and see who bites and get multiple offers. Now you've got to look at the comps and list it for where the comps are at, which is normal. And I got to bring it back to what Jamie was saying. We got to re-educate everybody. It's normal that you list a house that has the same square footage, same layout as the house next door for what the house next door sold for if it was 6 months ago, right? You list it for around that. We just got used to everything going up, 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 and got used to homes going under contract in a weekend.
Yeah. And just a quick comment. I know I am a newer real estate investor, but just some of the books that I read, it turns out that in the seller's market is when inventory is less than 3 months. And in a buyer's market is typically like, I think they said over 6 months or over 4 months. So like for houses to be selling in 2 to 3 weeks is typically not normal, because anything under 3 months is a seller's market. And we've been a week basically. So I found that very interesting to say, wow. So I guess 10, 15 years ago, it was, if your house sold in 2 months, that was a fast selling house, which was shocking. If your house sits right now for 2 months, you might cut the price in half. So yeah, it is a big difference.
Jamie, kicking it back to you. I think you were going to say something earlier.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, to, all of those points, when you start looking at the months on market, for people that are flipping, and this is more towards Kevin, when you're looking at this stuff, you really need to make sure that your numbers are really good as far as holding costs. Holding costs are going to be a major factor now, instead of looking at 3 months and not, I was never using 3 months as a number. I was always using 6 months. But if you're, you were off the market, basically, flip, done, on the market, closed, 3 months, you were done. And now you need to make sure you're looking at holding costs for at least 6 months now.
Okay.
And also potentially looking at another exit strategy, because the one thing that is still strong is the appraisals. Like your house is not going to have an issue appraising, right? You're going to get the appraisal. And so I like what Jamie is considering, right? And thinking through, which is a potential refinance, right? On a property, as opposed to dropping the price so low. Because if interest rates do improve, right, at some point, people are going to jump right back in because the cost of the house goes down, and you can just list it and sell it as opposed to selling it at, less of a profit. So I think you got to have that second exit strategy, which is, hey, can I refinance this and rent this thing out to at least cover the cost, and then sell it at a later date when, the market switches again.
This is definitely I've always considered Airbnbs, but this will be the first time I'm like dead set on it. I want this thing done by, November, December, because once January hits here, that's our season, right? We have, Barrett Jackson car auction will be here, and then you have the Super Bowl and the Waste Management Open on the same weekend.
Wait, is the Super Bowl coming to Arizona this year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh yeah. It's going to be lit. Yeah, you definitely got to have that open, man.
It's got to be done.
Hey, this is a good time for it. And would highly recommend, once you get to that point, and we're going to talk before then, doing what Alpha did, which is have 1 or 2 friends, book the first couple stays and just give you like, those 5-star reviews with detailed notes, because it'll get you off to the right track.
Cool. Yeah, that was great info right there.
Another Airbnb tip for everybody: when you get your friend's phone, heart your listing and save it on as much listings as possible, because it makes you higher on the algorithm. So even if you just do it on your phone and 10 phones and just kind of save your listing, Airbnb is going to say, hey, this person has, this one say has a favorite property on 10 Airbnbs. And I'm telling you, I think that helped me with my Midtown property, because I probably had about 15 people do that. I didn't do that for my second property in Brookhaven, and I didn't realize, I'm still trying to figure out why the Midtown one was so more successful than the Brookhaven one. And one thing that I realized was I had heard that on a YouTube video somewhere, and I did it. And I think that helped increase myself on the algorithm to get seen more. So that's another little small tip that you could just, grab your friend's phone, grab your wife's phone, like it. And then, if it's a little help, it's free. So.
No, thank you. I'm actually going to try that for this art Airbnb, because I want this one to be something that pops up on like Airbnb's page. So I'm gunning for that. Yeah, definitely gunning for that.
I'm gonna ask you a question real quick. So I know you're managing 15 right now.
Yep.
Do you own any of those, or are those for other people?
I own 4 of them. So I manage 15, own 4. and we're going to be at 23 by the end of the year.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the idea of managing them seems like it almost feels like something that I could probably put together out here. I've thought about it, and the more I talk to you, the more I think about it, but I think I could make that happen. It's just something maybe you and I need to discuss a little bit more.
Jamie, I have no doubt you can. The only reason I moved into it is because I put some systems in place for the 2 that I owned last year and talked to other investors that were kind of running all around. They're like, hey, can you help? I said, sure. And once you put the systems in place, it's a lot less on you. Like the reason I'm able to focus and have a conversation with everybody tonight is because I got somebody who's answering all the messages. I got somebody who's doing all the maintenance, and the cleaning team is doing their own thing. And it's all automated. The cool thing about this is you can automate it and you get paid more than traditional property management, because traditional property management is not what I want to do.
Right.
But yeah,
We'll discuss that a little bit more, man, when we have some.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Hey, happy Wednesday. And I look forward to catching up with you guys next week.
Later, bro.
See you, man.
Good talking to you, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Nice to meet everybody.